Hello everyone and welcome to the 2024 Cadillac XT5 review. Now, in the luxury small SUV segment, the criteria that one would usually look for is luxury, of course, comfort, practicality, value for money, and also to some extent fun to drive car. So, does this XT5 tick all the boxes? So, in today's video, we're going to be finding out everything in detail about this one. So let me begin with the various trim options which are available on this XT5. So starting off with the luxury variant, then the premium luxury and the sport variant, but there are several more different options within that category. So the luxury variant is available in front wheel drive and a 2-liter turbocharged engine, whereas the premium luxury variant is available in front wheel drive, all wheel drive, and also a 2-liter turbocharged engine option and a 3.6-liter V6 engine option, whereas this sport variant of the XT5 is available only in all-wheel drive option and also the 3.6-liter V6 engine. So there is no option in this one. So let me begin with the front end. So it looks pretty big in the front end. It's not actually like a small SUV-ish kind of look, but more like mid-size or a pretty big SUV-ish kind of look. And check out till the bottom of this, like the bumper goes. And the first thing to mention is the optional paint option, which is the midnight sky metallic paint work, which I really like, and it's the new thing on this 2024 XT5. Make sure to check out this paint option. It shines, it's a purplish tone, some golden flakes in it. And let me begin with the front grille. This pointy grille, actually when you look at the front profile from the side angle, there is like a pointy given, and this big mesh grille in black color with the huge Cadillac badging and chrome surround around it. And if you notice, even the whole front end, there are lots of Cadillac badges inculcated into the design. So this Cadillac badging itself, this grille is in the Cadillac shape. This whole front end is actually in the Cadillac shape, which is pretty amazing to incorporate the Cadillac design into its actual design. So yeah, that's pretty amazing. And there's also the chrome strip on either side, and there are these cornering lights which are the optional extras on this. And in fact, there are $14,000 worth of optional extras given on this XT5 Sport. Yeah, like I'm gonna come around whenever I come across any optional extras given on this thing. I'll try to mention as many as possible, otherwise I'll put it on the screen. Also, at the bottom, glossy black plastic, and above that there is just normal plastic given. I mean, I understand if you scrape or something, it's just more easier. There's another glossy grill at the bottom. There's also a camera given in the front for the various safety systems, adaptive cruise control. And when you come to these headlights, you have this split headlight cluster, and then sort of an elongated one continues from the side profile, goes till the bottom. And then the strip out here that you see is the DRL strip, and also on the top there's DRL strip. There's Cadillac badging inside these headlights also, and the headlight cluster is a completely LED headlight cluster. And there are also turn signals, but these are just the strip out here. So the same DRLs like partially convert into the turn signals. And as I mentioned, there is optional cornering lights given on either side, and underneath this sits a 3.6-liter V6 engine. Now on the sides, there are these optional 20-inch dual tone alloy rims with the black color and chrome Cadillac badging in the center. And on this sport variant, there are Brembo brake disc and caliper, the front ones, and the red calipers given in the back, which is again only for the sport variant option. The badging out here, Cadillac in silver color. There's this chrome strip given at the bottom, along with normal plastic given at the bottom. Again, I understand, because if you take this car maybe off-roading somewhere, then it's just more easier to replace those lower panels. When you come to these side mirrors, these are body colored side mirrors. They are power foldable, power adjustable. They also have the blind spot warning inside them. There's also a turn light given in them too. There's also one of the cameras from the 360-degree camera system, which is an optional extra given on this thing. Black color roof rails on the top. There's also glossy black surround around these windows. And once you look at the car from the side profile, you can see why I say like it doesn't look like a small SUV, but pretty much like a mid-size SUV, because it looks enormous in its proportions. There are also these subtle lines that continue till the back, arching on the back side too. And in terms of the suspensions, there are the adaptive suspensions, so real time adaptive suspensions given on this thing. So those are the performance suspensions, and they are the optional extras given on this thing, but they actually work quite well. And this is an all-wheel drive system, as I mentioned. When you come to these doors, all the 4 doors are keyless entry doors. So yeah, and there is also the optional illuminated Cadillac badging on the door sills too. But now when the sun is shining directly on the car, you can see that color option, the midnight sky metallic paintwork on this thing. It actually pretty much stands out from the other paint job. Now in the rear, there is completely LED tail light cluster, and the turn signals, brake lights, everything is LED. There's also Cadillac badging on the side of this tail light cluster in an L shape when you look at it from the side profile, and the reversing light is mounted into this bumper on the lower side. Again, there are some more Cadillac badges cleverly hidden into this design here. So the main Cadillac badging out here, and if you look at this number plate where it sits, this cutout for that is in Cadillac badge shape, and the rear view glass itself is in the Cadillac badge. So yeah, again, there are lots of places where they've actually, even in the interior, they've placed a lot of these elements inside too. And then again, the pointy shape is continued in the back too. There's also a dual tone spoiler given in the back. The top one is the body color, bottom bit is glossy plastic with the brake lights mounted inside. There's also a wiper which hides underneath the spoiler, and in terms of the visibility, it's actually a bit restricted and it's kind of narrow that way. But in order to solve that issue, there is a camera mounted out here. There are a couple of cameras, one for the reversing and another dedicated camera for the rear view monitor. Now this is an optional extra, but this is worth the optional extra if you want to opt for. So then if you have passengers in the rear seats, there is still no problem, because you can switch on that, easily flick the rear view glass, and you can get the feed onto that one, and then you can adjust the brightness, the zoom, the lower or the upper level visibility, whatever you want you can adjust. There are lots of options inside that. Then the XT5 badging in chrome, this strip again in chrome from one end to the other, the 400 series badging, and the all-wheel drive in chrome at the bottom. This plastic bumper completely is from one end to the other, then more chrome strip around these reversing light, and dual exhaust tips which are chrome exhaust tips, and these are the functional exhaust tips and not the fake one. There is also a convenience feature, so if you have a lot of shopping bags, you can swipe your legs and open the trunk door, but if you still want to use it in a conventional way, you can press the button and open the trunk door. Now this has one of the class leading boot spaces on this thing. So first of all, there are scuff plates given in the back so that you don't damage your plastic bumper. There's more plastic around that too. There are also tying points given in the back. There's also boot light and a 12-volt power socket given on the left side. So when the rear seats are folded up, you can put 30 cubic feet of luggage in the back, which is pretty solid in terms of the boot space, because there are just smaller arches, that's about it, but otherwise it's a pretty even and rounded space, like very even I would say. And there is not much step also, because the carpet matches with this scuff plate, so it's just going to be easier to put your luggage in and out from this thing. And there's also an optional cargo management system provided here, the bar that you see there. So you have to press that and adjust the distance of it. So if you want to split your cargo, or if you want to secure something, then lots of options with which you can do that too. And at the bottom of this boot floor sits a temporary spare wheel along with the toolkit, and the boot floor also has this nice bit of carpet lining to it. Now the rear seats are foldable in a ratio of 60:40, and in order to do that, there is a convenience feature given here. So there are levers, pull them, but they are just in normal plastic, that's the only thing. So you pull them from both the sides and the seats fold down. Again, very flat surface, so when the rear seats are folded down, you can put 63 cubic feet of luggage in the back. Again, that's pretty even, and as I said, the boot floor is flat, so there's not much hindrance in terms of sliding your luggage in and out. Longer objects, you can easily slide them in. There's also a light given in the trunk door, so that it's just easier when it is closed to look at the space in the back, or at night you can see illuminated, your ground is illuminated, so it's just more easier. And in order to close this trunk door, there's a button provided. This is an electronic one, or you can even slide your legs, because there is convenience feature that is given to close this trunk door. Now, as I mentioned, just like the outside, there are lots of logos that are inculcated into the design on the inside also. So first, let me begin with the steering. There is a Cadillac badging here, and even the outer bit of the steering at the bottom, there is carbon fiber. That whole thing makes like a Cadillac badge. This infotainment screen, underneath that there are a couple of buttons with the glossy plastic, that's in Cadillac shape. These air conditioning controls in Cadillac shape. This cutout to put something, again, that's also in the Cadillac shape. Not just that, here is the bit. This entire dashboard, if you look at it, it makes the Cadillac logo. So yeah, that's pretty clever to put so many subtle logos into the main design. So let me begin first with the material quality. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but let me explain you how. So the top bit is all soft squidgy material with the stitching. Even the door cards on the top bit are soft and squidgy, where you're going to be resting hands, that's pretty soft that way. But the inside of that, the handle is all in plastic. These switches are in normal plastic. On top where the door handle is, that's glossy carbon fiber given there. Then the Bose grill given around that, and I love how the door and the dashboard merges. There is nice sort of flowing to it. At the bottom, again, soft squidgy materials. Even out here on the top side, it's soft materials around these air conditioning controls. But as you start going downwards, yeah, there is normal plastic. Again, there is this cutout given where there is a storage. That cutout is again in the Cadillac shape, and there is also suede lining. Again, that's an optional extra, but that actually elevates the material quality inside this cabin. And it's more like at the eye levels, it's all like proper quality materials, but below that it starts to become normal plastic. There is half of the door cards at the bottom completely in normal plastic, and as I mentioned, underneath this center tunnel, again, normal plastic. So the interior comes in bits and parts. It sort of, yeah, tries to become more luxurious. There is also suede material on the dashboard and even on the door cards on the top side too. So the material, yes, it's a mix and match, which is why I said. And also the whole interior tries to come in together as a luxurious interior, but yes, it's kind of in between, I would say, because there are places where there is lots of normal plastic, and then again these cup holders, if they are covered, then not a problem because there is a door to that. But if you slide that open, the plastic out there is actually just like very normal plastic. You can improve that because it is right at your eye level, and you usually see that all the time. So yeah, that's the material quality in here. There are also mood lights given in the door cards, and you can't change the light color or anything, but it's just one single white color. There are also lights in the footwell on the driver and the passenger side seat. Now when you come to the driver's display, there is an 8-inch digital driver's display given in the center, and there are two conventional dials given on either side, and both these dials actually angle towards the driver, so it's more like a curved sort of display. And I like this sort of analog dials for the RPM counter on the left side and the speedometer on the right side. I like that. And in the center there is an 8-inch screen that shows you lots of information on the top bit, the two-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, speed limits, cruise control, digital speed, everything, and at the bottom range, the odometer and everything. And in the center you can change the information. There are buttons given on the right side to change all the information on your screen. So the first option is the digital speed, then you scroll down, then trip 1 information, trip 2 information, fuel range, oil life, long extensive list, tire pressure, air filter life, fuel economy, average speed, timer, follow distance, driver assistance, battery voltage, coolant temperature, transmission fluid, then the different axes, the angle to see the car, and then the blank page or the info page options where you can customize what you see on your screen. Then you scroll to the right side, then the media option, then the navigation option, then your phone option. Then there is a night vision system given on this thing, which is an optional extra, but yeah, I've tried that at night. It looks quite decent in terms of the results. Yeah, it's very good, especially if it's very dark. That's what the night vision is for. But yeah, that's an optional extra given on this thing. Then the settings option, where there is units, info page, display, speed warning, heads up display, software, and then you come out into the main group of menus. So yeah, that's your entire display on the driver's gate. So that's actually quite easy to change everything, and then just these 4 buttons actually do everything on your screen. I like how simple it is. Now there is also a heads up display given on this thing, and there are buttons given for that too on the left side. So the main heads up display, you can adjust the height of it simply by pressing up and down. Then there are different themes that you can customize. Then there is the navigation on your screen, then the compass, the RPM counter if you want to see that, much more sportier option. Then you come back to just the digital speed and the speed limit that shows you, and the brightness button. And if you want to go inside and change the angle of it, then you go into the driver's display. Inside that there is setting option as we saw. Then you go down and there is the heads up display option where you see the display speed sign. You can switch it on and off, or the rotation, you can change that too. So that option is given here, whereas the main basic options for using it every day are given on your left side. A lot of these options are actually button operated, which is actually a good thing, but then some of the options there are like lots of buttons, especially on the steering wheel. So when you come to this steering wheel, this is a leather covered round steering wheel, and it is quite big that way to hold. There are metal paddle shifters, look, you can hear them. There's also carbon fiber given on here. There's carbon fiber given even on the dashboard and on either side too, and even on the passenger side seat. There's Cadillac badging in here with this leather covered bits in the middle too, and there are buttons given on either side, and also buttons given at the bottom of the spokes. So it's a 4-spoke, but those couple of spokes on either side have buttons too. So it's a very busy steering wheel. And as a luxury feature, this steering wheel is electronically adjustable, tilt and telescopic, which is fairly quiet, I would say, in terms of its operation. Now there are buttons, as I said, given on either side. On the right side you would find the buttons for the driver's display controls, all of it, and even the volume controls, whereas on the left side there are buttons given for the regular and the adaptive cruise control. So you can press the cancel button and you can long press that and switch from regular cruise control to adaptive cruise control. Then the voice control buttons, and as I said, there are more buttons given at the bottom. So on the left side there is buttons for the lane keep assist, the distance to set for the cruise control, adaptive cruise control, and the heated steering wheel option, whereas on the right side the track changer button. So yeah, there are quite a lot of buttons when you turn around and you want to change something. Yeah, it's the only thing, you have to memorize a few of them on this thing. Now when you come to the air conditioning controls, you get tri-zone air conditioning system on this XT5, and it's button operated as well as the touchscreen options given inside the infotainment screen, but it's not like the split option, but independent option. So straightforward on and off button given here, and on either side buttons given to adjust the temperature, and also more buttons given at the bottom for the auto and everything. And on the sides there are buttons given for the heated and the cooled seats. So there are both the options given on this XT5. And in order to change the air conditioning controls from inside the infotainment screen, you swipe and there is a climate option. Go inside that, and again on either side there's temperature options. Then there is the main bit in the center for the flow of air, then the fan option on the top. Press that, and even you can control the rear air conditioning from here, the temperature you can set, or fan speed, the flow of air, everything. But there's also a dedicated rear climate option if you want to go straight into that while you're driving. So again, that's also given on this thing. So yeah, in terms of the performance of the air conditioning, let me put it in full fan speed. Yeah, it gets slightly loud, but in terms of the performance of the air conditioning, it's actually pretty good, especially on a warm day like today when the temperature is around 25 ish. So the air conditioning system is actually pretty good on this XT5. Now when it comes to the infotainment screen, this is an 8-inch infotainment system given on this XT5 Sport variant. And the first thing to notice is that the screen has a bit of an angle, but it's angled towards the roof. So maybe if your panoramic sunroof is open, then light would fall straight on it and there's a lot of glare after that. Or maybe if you're driving on a bright day like today, then yeah, it tends to have a bit of glare sometimes. That's the only thing, because it's angled towards the roof. And also, if you notice, the parking button is a touch button which is given on the extreme right hand side, which is a bit of a task because you have to find that button, because it's an emergency button. So yeah, I mean, it's a touch button. Again, it's not like a proper button which has a proper feedback. So it's just a touch button, but it's mounted on the right side, which is a bit of a stretch. Let's begin understanding the infotainment screen. So it's decently snappy, I will say. A bit of a lag sometimes here and there, but yes, it's still all right. So on your main screen, there are widgets for the media controls and the navigation, inbuilt navigation system. You cannot change any of that, you cannot readjust or anything. Then there are icons once you swipe. So first option is the audio option, inside which you would find all your sources: AM, FM, Sirius XM, complimentary package. Then Bluetooth option, and there's also wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay connectivity given on this XT5. Come back to the home, then the phone option, inbuilt navigation system, decently snappy, not too bad. But there is also a memory card given underneath this center handrest, which actually shows all the map options in there, so they have to be regularly updated also. But now I think there is also the inbuilt internet connection given on this infotainment screen, which is a part of the OnStar system. For 3 years you get about 1 TB worth of internet. So I think these maps should be automatically updating themselves. Once we come back, Wi-Fi hotspot, and I tried using the Wi-Fi hotspot from the car and it actually works. It's not a gimmick. Actually, there's an internet connection for 3 years given with this thing. User, then the settings option, where the system, time, date, language, Wi-Fi hotspot, privacy, display, sounds, and everything. So in terms of the sound, there is 14 speaker Bose premium surround sound system given on this thing, and it's absolutely incredible. I love how it sounds. Then the next option is the app option: Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, apps, audio, climate, navigation, my Cadillac. Then the vehicle option: rear seat reminder, climate control, lighting, comfort and convenience, seating position. Then there is the teen driver option to limit a few of the operations on the car, but there's also a valet mode which can completely limit everything on this car. So none of the settings are changed when you give this car for valet. So that's the options given. Then the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you can long press and adjust these icons on the screen, all of the icons given. Then we swipe, then there is the app option, OnStar services, climate, rear climate, then the 360-degree camera call if you are somewhere in a parking and you want to have a look around. And there are touch buttons given on either side, as I mentioned on this panel, the glossy plastic. Press that home button, and then the Sirius XM, then my Cadillac. You go inside, takes a little while to load, but yes. Then there is the scheduled service, my plans, where it shows you the internet package options, then the roadside assistance, then learning all the digital owners manual in there. Then the Amazon Alexa is inbuilt into this, then Cadillac Maps and Spotify options also given on this thing. So in terms of the infotainment screen, yes, it's decent, I would say, but yeah, it's sometimes feels a bit dated now in terms of its appearance and in terms of how it fits into this entire dashboard inside this thing. But yes, in terms of the operations, yeah, it's pretty good. And with the wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, you have Google Maps also, so you are sorted in terms of that. Now when you come to the charging, there are two USB ports given inside this center handrest, which is type C, and one normal. There is one 12-volt power socket given underneath this center console, where there is a cutout for the storage, and there is also a wireless charger given on this thing. But inside this handrest, when the wire you plug it in, there is a hole given, so you can remove the wire from inside and you can close this center armrest, which is also pretty good. But the wireless charger sits a little underneath the handrest, so it's a bit of a fine sometimes. Yeah, once you know where it is exactly, then you would get used to that. For the rear passengers, there are two USB ports, one type C and one normal given. Now in terms of the storage on this XT5, in the door cards you can put about 1.5 liter worth of bottle in the front and some more storage on the side, little bit of storage, that's about it. Then there is this big cutout at the bottom, you can put your phones, wallets, whatever, especially if your phones are charging using a 12-volt power socket. There's this cutout given underneath the air conditioning controls, you can put your wallets. Then there are these two normal cup holders that comes with a cover, and this glove box with the velvet lining inside of that. On the passenger side, same 1.5 liter worth of bottle. This center armrest, which is decently big to put maybe your phones and wallets, that's about it. There's also a tray provided, and then in the rear door cards you can put about 1 liter worth of bottle, that's about it. And in the center armrest there are two more cup holders. Now on this XT5 there are extendable sun visors, so that you can cover the doors on either side. Even on the passenger side the same thing, and there is also an SOS option and the OnStar button given on the top. And on this XT5 there is a panoramic sunroof, so it actually makes the whole car feel quite airy on the inside. There are also more buttons given here to control the infotainment screen. So there is the knob for the volume and also another knob to control this screen, which is actually pretty good, because when you're driving you don't want to touch the screen and take your hands off, but rather you can have your hands down and then select the different options while you are driving this thing. And then there are also shortcut buttons available there too, for your media, navigation, back button, phone button, all of those buttons given here, but again in normal plastic. And there are also a couple of buttons given for the traction control and the mode button. So there are 4 different driving modes on this XT5, which is the Tour, which is just two-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, then the sport mode and the off-road mode. So just press the buttons multiple times and you can go into different driving modes. Now when you come to the seats, you get black color semi-aniline seats on this XT5, which is an optional extra, and there are also Cadillac badging given in the backrest, and the whole thing also makes, like on the top bit, makes like a Cadillac logo. So again, that's where more Cadillac badges have been put. And these are the perforated seats because these are the heated and the cool seats. And in terms of the comfort levels, they are decently comfortable, I would say. These seats offer good amount of support on the sides, and even at the bottom underneath my thigh there is also good amount of support. And the headrests are decently squishy, although a bit on the harder side, especially if you consider for a luxury SUV. Slightly harder setup, but again I get, because this is a sport variant, which is why these seats are meant to be a little more sportier in that sense, but the leather makes it a little softer. There's also white color stitching and everything. Now in terms of the adjustability, so the driver side seat is 8-way electronically adjustable and 2-way lumbar adjustment, and also the passenger side seat is 8-way electronically adjustable and 2-way lumbar adjustment. So in the rear, space arrangements feel decent. Starting off with the knee room, you have half palm worth of knee room in the back. The headroom is about all right, but someone above 6 feet will start brushing their heads against this suede material, and you can slide your legs under the seats, but there is not much room, that is because the seats are quite padded and thick, that is reducing the gap underneath the seats to stretch your legs during the longer journeys. But apart from that, the seats that are given in the back, they are decently comfortable. They are perforated seats, and they are also the heated seats on either side, so you get that option too on this thing. In terms of the support underneath my thigh, that's decent, I would say. It's not like my under thigh is hanging or anything, but there is plenty of support that way. But here is another feature: you can recline the seats and you can relax into these seats in the back, which also gives you good amount of options. Again, another option is the sliding option. The rear seats are slidable in the front, and these are all the way to the back, so in case you have extra cargo, yeah, you can slide the seats in the front to give extra bit of room, but otherwise, yeah, utilize this entire space. And the rear seats are all in the semi aniline leather seats, black color ones with the white color stitching, and good amount of support, as I mentioned, even in the back and at the bottom too. And there is also no tunnel given in here, so it's actually a flat floor, and there are also rubber mats given in this thing with the Cadillac badging. It's much more easier to clean them up. When I sit in the middle seat has a lot of bulge at the bottom and even a bulge in the back too, and it's a hard one. And there are, as I said, two flexible cup holders given in this handrest, again surrounded by normal plastic. And the thing is, the cup holders are right in the front and there is not much room around that, so if you put cup holders like cup into these cup holders, then not much space to put your hands after that. And it's a pretty tiny one that way is the handrest too. In terms of the door car quality in the back, it's decent, like leather covered soft touch materials, then the suede material lining, the carbon fiber design, and where you're going to be resting hands, that's leather covered with the white color stitching. On the inside, again, there's normal plastic, and the handles at the bottom, yes, plenty of normal plastic. Even out here in the center console, where there are two air conditioning vents and the control for the air conditioning for the rear passengers, that's completely surrounded with normal plastic. Yeah, so there are controls on the top, the buttons are given around that. You can control the fan speed, the temperature, the flow, the direction of flow of air and everything. And on either side there are buttons given for the heated seats. And again, there also you will notice one more Cadillac badging incorporated in there. Overall, the space arrangement is all right. I would say a little bit of plastic that can be eliminated from here, that would actually make it a much more luxurious experience on this thing. And even the seats have the pocket storage on either side and slight amount of curve to give you extra bit of knee room. So in terms of the comfort for the rear passengers, the XT5 would provide you with that. Not sure about the middle passenger though, but during the summers you can remain cool because of the air conditioning vents, and warm during the winters. So this XT5 Sport comes with a 3.6 liter V6 engine that produces 310 horsepower and 271 pound-feet of torque, and this engine is mated to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and it's got an all-wheel drive system that comes as standard, whereas the base variants, as I said, has an option of 2-liter turbocharged engine and a 3.6 liter on the premium luxury trim option, whereas the 9-speed automatic gearbox is standard across all the model lineup. Now, in terms of the performance from this engine and the gearbox, it's modest, I would say. It's not very sporty, or it's not something that will take you back when you press the throttle, because there's a bit of a lag in response. And also the grunt, yeah, it's quite mild that way, even though this is a V6 engine. But yes, after a certain RPM it starts to pick up that power, but otherwise initially there is a bit of a lag on that front when you press the throttle. It's not the most liveliest of the transmissions, whereas the gear shifts, they are all right. Like, you don't feel a lot of jerks initially. First, second gear, a little bit of jerk, that's about it. But then, yeah, the transmission shifting is quite smooth that way. So also, if I put the thing in the sport mode or even in the all-wheel drive, it can improve the handling a little bit, that's for sure, because that's what the all-wheel drive is for. And plus, especially during the winter seasons when there is snow, that's going to come in quite handy. The all-wheel drive system, but you can leave it in two-wheel drive to increase the efficiency. So in terms of the efficiency from this 3.6 liter V6, inside the city you will get around 13 to 13.5 liters per 100 kilometers, whereas on longer runs around 12 to 12.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which is again quite decent for a car this big and for a V6 engine. And when it comes to the different driving modes, as I said, let me put it into the sport mode. It slightly improves the response, yes, but not something that will be alarmingly quick or will take you back or would surprise you, but in the most gentle and a subtle way, it just becomes a little more reactive to your right foot. That's the only thing. But yes, I'm comfortable with the normal two-wheel drive because it's much more comfortable, especially clubbed with these suspensions, because when we come to these suspensions, these are the continuously damping suspensions. These are working full time, and when these suspensions are working, you can actually feel them, so they actually help reduce the roll also. So there is less roll for sure on this one because it cleverly calculates and basically balances the car ride. And also the damping, you can, when it goes through certain hard bumps, that's when it takes a little longer to damp the bumps. And also you can feel certain extra cycles the dampers take, because the car sort of takes a little longer to damp those bumps. And yeah, you can feel it also, it takes those extra cycles, couple of them, to just even out and then give you a crisp riding experience. But on like mild bumps, the suspensions work all right, and you can actually, as I said, feel them working also all the time. Now when you come to the steering wheel, there is an electronic steering on this XT5 Sport, and the response from that, again, it's a bit on the harder side. Initially I thought this was a hydraulic steering, but it does not even change its nature. But the feedback is actually pretty solid from this thing, and you can actually feel the weight of this car through the steering wheel. Sometimes good, sometimes not, especially on the highway. It's a very confidence inducing steering setup, whereas within the city sometimes it can be a bit of a workout to turn the steering wheel, especially because the wheel is quite big. So yeah, you have to be at it. And when you put this car into the manual setup also with the paddle shifters, let me shift it because right now it's in the fourth gear. Yes, that's one more way to make sure that you have the rich band of power and torque all the time. But again, the shifts are also a bit lagging, like it takes about half a second or something, even sometimes second, to figure out to go into that gear. This is a dual clutch, but yes, it still takes a while. So yeah, again, leave it in auto. Now when you come to the brakes, there are 4 disc brakes on this XT5 Sport, and the front ones are the Brembo brake disc calipers. And again, you can feel the braking difference because these brakes actually catch very well, and the calipers actually do the job very well. And the stopping distance is actually pretty impressive, especially for a car this big, and it's quite heavy, as I said. So to stop it, yeah, the braking performance is actually very good. And it's just that the brake pedal is a bit sensitive and it starts the braking action immediately, so you have to get used to the fact that the travel is not much. So yeah, it took me a couple of minutes to figure out how the whole brake pedal was set it up, and once you get used to that, yeah, it's a little more sensitive than usual. Now when you come to the noise and the vibrations, I feel like there is a bit of tire noise that's constantly there, plus also a bit of wind whooshing around these windows, and the engine can get a little rowdy and noisy when you, yeah, this thing I can hear. So yeah, those are the only things, but otherwise in terms of the vibrations, there is none. And the build quality is actually quite solid and impressive. So yeah, nothing rattling or loose on the inside or even on the outside that you can hear. Now when you come to the safety systems, there are 8 airbags, so 2 for the front driver and the passenger, 2 side airbags given for the driver and the passenger. There are also 2 curtain airbags given on the frame. There are also driver and the passenger side knee airbags. There is also a 360-degree HD reversing camera system, which is an optional extra, but the quality of that is highly impressive, because you should definitely get that, because it makes life so much more easier maneuvering inside the city, especially in tighter parking lots, in tighter spaces. There are so many different views to select from. There is also child isofix points in both the rear seats, the ABS, there's also EBD, then there is also traction control, tire pressure monitoring system, and there are electronic belt tensioners. The moment you sit inside, put on your belt, it adjusts the tension automatically, and if they have to lock, there is an electronic adjustment inside, so it does all of that. You can feel it also when you clamp the seat belt. Then there is the lane departure warning, lane keep assist, again that's an optional extra. The adaptive cruise control, then the blind spot warning. So a lot of safety systems also provided on this XT5 Sport. Now when you come to the pricing, that's where it all matters. So the base variant of this XT5 starts from around $48,000, whereas the premium luxury variant comes in at $57,000. I'm going to put the exact prices on your screen. And this XT5 Sport comes in at $61,499,000, and with all the optional extras, as I mentioned, they were worth $14,000. And if you add all of those, then this thing comes to $78,000, and that's a bit of a high price to pay, you know. Yeah, I believe that the premium luxury model is the best one for $57,000. That's the best one. And yeah, if you want a lot more luxury, then Sport variant is the one. But then in terms of the overall verdict, I feel this car has a lot of competition in its segment, like a lot. So to come up on top of that, yeah, you need a lot of things and a lot of features, and this car delivers that. But the only thing is that it manages to be a competition in its segment. Is it worthy? Yeah, I feel it needs a little more, because the design seems to be a bit dated now, let's be honest, and the interior can become a lot more gelled together to function as a luxurious interior, and the plastic bits can be removed. But yes, after paying some of the optional extras, it can become a proper luxurious variant, but again that comes at a price too. So yeah, some of the things can be corrected on this, and this can become a much more viable option in its segment. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. Give this video a thumbs up, and thank you for watching this video. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, then you can click here, and if you want to watch more videos, then click here. I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye, take care, and drive safe.